Hey friends, what's up? This is Metro. Blizzard released the mid-season, Season 7 patch early. We'll get into if it's actually the one we've been waiting for, or if it was just like a whole bunch of nothing. But the meta was really stale. Until now, it was basically almost the same as last season. If you've not watched one of my tier lists before, we take all the heroes, we go over why they are weaker or better than before, take into consideration how good the heroes are on certain levels. There are quite a few change-ups, and I do think this patch is way more exciting than the Season 7 patch, which was basically nothing. But we'll get into that, and we'll start right now with Ana. This patch was targeted mostly at supports, reducing the survivability of supports and making them less frustrating to play against. And Ana apparently is one of them, according to Blizzard, because Ana got a pretty big nerf. Her biotic grenade cooldown got increased from 10 to 12 seconds. Might not sound like a lot. This is actually the support that has been hit the hardest, which doesn't really make sense to me. Don't get me wrong, Ana was really strong, but I do think there were other characters like Kiriko and Illari that needed bigger nerfs. In practice, this is gonna mean in a lot of fights, Ana is only gonna have the anti up once, right? So if you force an anti early, you know, engage the Ana right after. If she doesn't have cooldowns up, she's gonna be way more vulnerable. I do think this nerf was needed, and this is one of my favorite changes of the patch. Ana was too strong compared to other supports. She's not the greatest anymore. I'll put her in low B tier. I think she's still pretty good, but it's a good change that is gonna make her somewhat balanced, okay? I have to believe, if you haven't watched me before, that right now supports are too strong, and spoilers, I think they're still too strong after this. Supports can still easily win 1v1s against DPS for free, which shouldn't be in the game if the game was balanced. Ashe got no changes, still a very solid DPS. I do think Ashe is one of those characters that really benefits from a Mercy Pocket and gets way weaker without a Mercy Pocket. I'm gonna put her in lower A tier. Don't mistake this for me saying that Ashe is better than Ana. Of course, we have to look at DPS compared to other DPS. I still think supports have more impact in the game than DPS right now. If you compare Ashe to other DPS, I think she's super playable, probably really good with a Mercy Pocket. Baptiste, and they are finally nerfing some of the pain points, but I don't think it's enough. The health of the immortality got reduced from 150 to 125. Almost not relevant, because good Baptiste will place the lamp around a corner where it's hard to hit, right? And then the cooldown got increased from 23 to 25. It's already a really long cooldown, immortality, right? You could already outplay Baptiste by forcing the immortality early and then engaging right after. He's still really good. This alone is not gonna be enough to make him worse. He's still really good. The issue with Baptiste is, if Baptiste fights against a DPS harassing them, the Baptiste should win. Baptiste does insane damage. Baptiste has a shift button that can heal him to full, and the immortality. Baptiste is just too multi-versatile. And while this change, I think, is a step in the right direction, the devs really need to get out of their ass and realize how broken supports are. Still easily S tier. We're gonna see more Baptiste, right? Because we're gonna see less Ana. We might see less Illari, which means we're also gonna see more Baptiste, right? So yeah, Baptiste got a nerf, but funnily enough, I don't think he's much worse in the meta. He might even be played more. Bastion got a nerf, which I agree with. I think a Bastion meta was not very fun. Okay, it was fun for a week. It became annoying. I still see Bastion all day, every day, especially in low rank games. He's a mini tank that does insane damage, can burst on the other tank. If you play tank, I'm sure you can relate. It's really unfun to play against Bastion. It's also really unfun to play against Bastion as another DPS, right? Assault mode, so the turret mode, the cooldown got increased from 10 to 12 seconds, and the weapon spread got increased by 10%, which means he's gonna do less damage on long range in turret form, and you're gonna have turret form up less. Those changes should be enough to get him back in line. I think he's gonna be an average DPS at best. I still think he's gonna see playtime, especially on lower ranks. I think he's still really good, right? Because low rank players don't abuse his biggest weakness.
Who you calling pinhead?
His biggest weakness is the fact that he's very immobile and that he's a very big hitbox. You force the turret form, wait until it's gone, and then you engage him and he becomes a very easy target to kill. And this is gonna make it so he has less turret form up, right? 2-second cooldown and less damage in turret form. So as long as you stay away from him when he's in turret, you can survive. He's definitely not gonna be hard meta anymore. He's still really good lower ranks like bronze, silver, gold, even platinum, diamond. But the higher you go up in rank, the weaker he's gonna become. This is a really good change. Good job, Blizzard. Brigitte got no changes. Brig is a situational character, right? She's really good in brawl. She's a good character. Like every support in the game, you know? Like, I think she's solid A tier. Not much to say about Brigitte. And I don't think she's mega broken like other supports. So I don't mind that they didn't nerf her. Okay, this next change makes no sense to me. I think this change really shows how much they moved away from trying to make Overwatch a competitive game. And this is a complaint on a personal level because I'm a competitive player and I do have the belief a competitive game should be balanced around the highest rank. That is not to say you should disregard low ranks, but you should balance the game out around high ranks and make everyone learn the game. But this change makes no sense. They increased the cooldown of Magnetic Grenade from 10 to 12 seconds. And it wasn't like Cassidy was OP. This change is so random. I think what's happening at the Blizzard headquarters is they look at statistics only and they see we buffed Cassidy and now he's performing better than before and he has a decent win rate. So we need to nerf him so the win rate goes down. That's not actually what's happening in practice. I don't see a lot of Cassidy, especially in high-ranked games. I don't know if you've watched the Overwatch World Cup is currently going on. There's like no Cassidy gameplay. Zero. Is this for my bronze friend Bob that dies to Magnetic Grenade over and over? What's happening, Blizzard? Is Cassidy too strong? He can be okay. He can be pretty good. But like he's one of the worst hit scans in the game before this nerf. And now they nerfed him again. Like what's happening? Which brings me to the next point. Why are we nerfing Doomfist? Listen. Doomfist is pretty good. He has seen quite a lot of play, especially in high ranks, in the last season. I think a good Doomfist that uses his mechanics properly, right? Which is hard to do. Doomfist is not an easy tank to play. I think Doomfist is one of the hardest tanks to play in the game. Should do well. Because Doomfist is a high skill ceiling character. But Doomfist has counterplay, right? And now they're nerfing the Rocket Punch stun duration. If your Rocket Punch is not charged, the minimum stun duration got increased from 0.25 to 0.15 seconds. And the maximum wall stun duration got decreased from 0.75 to 0.6 seconds. And the dev's comment is, this change will give the stun player more opportunities to react to Doomfist following a wall stun. There's more counterplay. I like counterplay in the game. Yes, I think you should encourage people to play their best to dodge abilities. But if you charge a Doomfist punch and then you get punched in the wall, that is already your mistake. I'm not saying buff Doomfist, but I'm saying I don't know why we're nerfing him. He's not hard meta. Are we seeing any Doomfist in Overwatch World Cup? Not a lot, right? Who are we balancing for, Blizzard? C tier at best. C tier. I don't know. The new tank god is here. Blizzard needs to sell the K-pop skin. Do you think Blizzard balances to sell skins? I don't think they do. But D.Va was a situational tank pick, but in the situations where she was picked, she was really good. On high ground maps where you need to take high ground early, like Dorado for example, or Gibraltar, right? Or against a double hit scan comp, D.Va was a great pick. She was situationally really good. D.Va has always been like at least A tier or S tier, like for basically the last few years, right? Now they're buffing the movement speed. When you shoot your cannons, you walk slower, right? And they reduce that movement speed penalty from 40 to 30%. So you walk slower, you walk faster now while you shoot. And the projectile speed of the micro missiles got increased from 40 to 50. That may not sound like a lot, but what this actually means is it's gonna be way easier to hit a lot of them. So if D.Va speeds into you, she's gonna hit more missiles on you, doing more damage. When the booster runs out, she's still gonna shoot you, right? But now, because her movement speed is faster, she can keep on shooting you for longer. This is a really significant buff that I think will propel D.Va into the meta. D.Va is going to be a very deadly tank that you will have to respect even more now. D.Va was already very tricky to play against because she has so much mobility, right? This is a really big buff and D.Va is easily S tier in this patch, 100%. Echo got no changes. Echo, you know, works better with a Mercy Pocket. Echo is a great Pharah counter, funnily enough. I think Echo is a better Pharah counter than most hit scans in the game. Yeah, I'm gonna put her low A tier. Like, she's a solid pick. Not mega meta, not super OP. She's not being played properly because she has such a high skill ceiling. So she definitely falls off in lower ranks. Now that I think about it, I'll put her back in upper B tier. Keep in mind, if you're really good on Echo, I think you can carry on her. But if you're like just mediocre, there are better choices for you, okay? Hey, any Genji mains in chat? No changes. I'm gonna put him low B tier because A, he's really hard to play. And even if you play him perfectly, you still get killed by supports. Maybe you can cut in that video of Hiko Asian. He Nado blades on Genji, dashes into the enemy and slashes Cassidy like 4 times and he lives without any ults being used on the other team. You need to play the blade perfectly. Bait out every single cooldown and even then there's a good chance you die, right? Because there's so many things that negate damage now. Wifeleaver grab, Cassidy roll, right? Zarya bubble, Kiriko cleanse, Ana sleep dart. Yeah, if you're 9 million IQ and you're just way better than the enemy, yeah, you can make Genji work. If you fuck up a tiny bit, you will lose against a player that is way worse than you. So why pick Genji, right? Because he's fun, because he's skillful. But Blizzard doesn't want to encourage skill anymore, right? We're now nerfing and buffing for the average plat Andy that doesn't want to play the game properly. Low B tier at best. Hanzo got no changes. Solid on sniper maps. Not much to say about him. He's not weak. He's not strong. I still hate him because he one-shots. That's it. Illari, first of the healing pylon, only has 100 HP now. And the cooldown when destroyed got increased from 12 to 15. A pylon nerf, again, I don't think the HP nerf does a lot, but I do think the cooldown nerf is quite significant. So if you misplace your pylon early as an Illari and the other team kills your pylon early, you will have no pylon for 15 seconds. So this gives the team against Illari a window where you can actually do something, okay? So this is a good nerf. But the issue with that is a very good Illari will be good enough to juggle a pylon and put the pylon in places where you won't be able to kill it. Yeah, it's a nerf, but like this is like a nerf to bad Illaris and not good Illaris. And the same goes with the second change. So the primary fire projectile size got reduced from 0.1 to 0.05 meters. Now, this might sound like a lot, okay? Oh, it's half the projectile size? You gotta keep in mind the left click of Illari is a hit scan ability. It is still easier to hit than any DPS hit scan ability. I don't know why it even has a projectile size in the first place. A projectile size should be a thing for projectile abilities. This is a hit scan ability. You're gonna notice a few more misses on Illari. So yes, on average, the damage of the Illari player is gonna go down here. But she's still easier to play than any hit scan in the game that is not a support. Why are supports being favored? I like that we're turning this down and making supports a bit harder to play. They should be as hard to play as other roles, right? Good for changing it a bit. Probably not enough. This is only really gonna hurt bad Illari players. Easy S tier still. It is a start, okay? I like that we're going into the right direction. But stop with this fucking bullshit mentality of making some roles just provide more value for free. Thank you for listening. Junkerqueen, mommy, dummy mommy, no changes. Solid rush character. You saw her a lot this season. I think she's still super playable. Junkerqueen is a pretty high skill ceiling tank, so if you play her really well in higher ranks, you're gonna do better. For low ranks, I would probably recommend Ramattra over her, which I guess I'll do right now because they're both kind of rush characters in different ways, right? Junkerqueen, you have the shout and you can do more movement-based stuff. Ramattra is more positioning-based, okay? These are the two rush characters to play. I think they're better than Reinfart by far in the meta. That work really well with a Lucio comp, that work really well with like a Deathball comp with Brigitte. Both super solid characters. Unlike Reinhardt, he fucking sucks. No changes. Thank you, Reinhardt players. See you next time. Bye, Cloudy. Which I guess now we can finish the entire tank debate thing. They released a blog post the other day where they were talking about Sigma being the highest win rate on highest rank. And it sounded like they thought Sigma was OP. They didn't even change Sigma. So they talk about Sigma being really good, but then they don't nerf him. Instead they nerf Doomfist. What are you smoking, devs?
Don't never buy no weed from the gas station, bro.
There's a few maps in the game where Sigma is just a must pick on high rank, which is Circuit Royale, Havana, Junket Town. Any long-range map, Sigma is the only poke tank in the game, right? What else are you gonna poke with? The reason Sigma has a high win rate is the same reason Torbjorn and Symmetra have high win rates. Because if you pick them early and they work, you're not gonna swap off them. This is a map issue with some maps requiring Sigma, and even on the maps where Sigma is not required, he is playable in certain comps. That's it. You're welcome, devs. Junkrat, no changes. Good on choke maps. I'm not gonna put him in dog shit tier, which reminds me, the Roadhog rework got delayed. Roadhog mains, sorry. Your character is still a throw pick, nothing changed about him. This pisses me off because
we want to reduce the survivability of support characters. So we increased the Suzu cooldown by 1 second.
The fuck?
Kiriko is still the fastest support in the game that can teleport and cleanse herself for free. With the smallest hitbox, impossible to hit, while having insanely big ass kunais of the size of a skyscraper that can dome any 200 HP character. If you're Kiriko and you lose 1v1s to DPS, you should uninstall the game. Kiriko is completely broken, but because little Andy in silver can't play Kiriko properly or is too bad to react in time and to teleport, they're not nerfing her properly. Again, I'm down for any nerf, but a 1 second increase of the cooldown of the Suzu, and that's it, is not gonna fix the character. Which I'm gonna talk about this guy too. Okay, Wifeleaver did get nerfed. Ammo got reduced from 20 to 16 for the Healing Blossom, and the max healing is now 70 instead of 75. Do the math, it's not a big nerf, but it is a nerf. And then the life grip cooldown got increased from 16 to 19 seconds. which people finally started to realize how good life grip is. This is a good change. See, 3 second up, I can understand, okay? Why don't we do that with Kiriko too? Who at the devs is Aaron Keller like a Kiri main? And he can only win with Kiri, and that's why Kiri is never getting nerfed? Is Kiri gonna be the best character in the game for the entirety of Overwatch 2 now? Or is it because we have to sell the skins for the K-pop?
Buy that merch, buy that merch, buy that merch.
Decent changes for Wifeleaver. The thing with Wifeleaver is he's still very easy to play if you are decent enough, especially in low ranks, right? He's a heal bot, and I hate using that word because it sounds so condescending, but he just heals the most in the game. And Tree of Life, I say it now, is the best ult in the game. Like, it's hard to kill it. Every time my team trees, I'm like, oh, we won the fight. There's Tree of Life. And it really feels like I win like 90% of the fights without doing anything. I just sit around the tree in cover and I shoot them and I can't die. When they tree, I'm like, okay, let's back out. We can't win. The nerfs are fine for Weaver, but I think he's still gonna be really good. Definitely not lower than A tier, and especially good in low ranks. If your team is good for low ranks support players, I have a tip for you. If your team is doing well, you can pick Weaver and keep them up for free, and then you will win the game. But if your team is bad, Weaver will not carry because he can only really heal, right? His damage is still really weak. If your team is bad, you pick Kiri and kill all of them yourself. That's it. Lucio got no changes. I don't think he needed changes. He's one of the more balanced supports. If we get into a rush or dive meta with Diva or Ram, right? Lucio does clear in the case scenario where Illari is actually like bad now, which I don't think she is. We'll see more Lucio and Kiri, you know, and Diva. And we're going back to what we played for the last year. Mei got a nerf. The slow of the left click is now 30% instead of 40, which is good. Mei was actually really, really strong when they changed her start of season 7. Now she's back to that niche character, even that, I would say high niche. If you have a map where you can wall off the enemy really well, or you have a rush comp where you want to wall off the enemy, Mei is your friend. Really solid character, up at B tier, easily. Mercy, no changes. I will move Mercy up in the tiers because every other support got nerfed. And I do think she's more playable now. I rated her the second worst support before those changes. But now I think there's a good case to be made for Mercy coming back in the meta with Pharah or Echo or Ashe, right? Because Ana is going to be weaker. Arguably a bit less of a counter with Illari being a bit weaker, right? Like Illari was a pretty good flyer counter, funnily enough. And I don't think she's too strong or too weak right now. I think she's pretty balanced. I like Mercy the way she is now. I wish they would give her a bit more movement, but punish, you know, make the rest of her toolkit a bit weaker. I like having the blue beam as a soldier main, so I'm biased. Moira is still the worst support in the game, and I'm actually gonna move her up as C tier. In bronze, silver, and gold, Moira is a hard carry, and even in plat, because people don't aim. In fact, I'll move her up to low B. She's pretty bad in like GM games, but the lower you go, the better she becomes, because the lower you go, the worse the enemy gets at hitting you, and you don't have to hit the enemy because you have auto aim. So she's a gimmicky character in that sense. I think she's a great character for new players, but you can't make her too strong to where she just wins very easily in GM, because then she would be broken. So I do think Moira is a perfectly balanced support, which funnily enough, she's also the worst support. Which means we still have to nerf supports, Blizzard. Thank you. I take that back. I forgot about the Zen nerf. Funnily enough, the biggest nerf out of any support is Zenyatta. So Zen has more health again, 225. The healing orb lasts for 5 seconds if your teammate is out of line of sight. But here is the big nerf. Discord Orb can no longer be reapplied to the same target 7 seconds after the effect has been removed. So if you engage the fight, the enemy tank walks into you, you discord them, and then the enemy tank just backs off for 2 seconds, waits until the discord is out. You will not be able to discord them for 7 seconds. So if you're not super careful with how you juggle your discord now, and when you put them down, when you discord what, you're gonna come into situations where you see 2 or 3 enemies and all 3 of them will not be able to be discorded. And discord is the main thing that makes sense so busted against certain tanks, for example, right? Like you discord an Orisa and they die, right? Or a Ramattra or a Junkerqueen. This is an insanely big Zen nerf, but I like the idea because it encourages people to actually back out and let the discord dissipate. Whereas before, it didn't matter if you backed out and let the discord dissipate, because then as soon as you peaked again, they would discord you again. And I do think this nerf is significant enough to make Zenyatta the weakest support in the game. And when I say weakest, I think he's still really good. How strong Zenyatta will be is how strong support should be. Balanced. and he's gonna be the weakest support. You're gonna see way less Zenyatta, but that's because every other support is still stronger than him. Orisa, no changes. She's unfun to play against. I wish we would have a meta where Junkerqueen and Ram is being played more over Orisa. I do think they're very close together. The only reason I'm gonna put Orisa in low S tier and Ram and Junkerqueen in high A tier is because Orisa is a bit simpler to get value out of, right? It's pretty simple to play Orisa, no offense. She's not mega broken anymore. I do think Sigma and Diva in most cases will be better. I guess we can get last tank as well, which is Winston, and he got a buff. The secondary fire range got increased from 30 to 40 meters, so the little zap. It's not the biggest deal, but it's gonna make Winston even stronger. And when I say even stronger, I mean Winston is actually being played in Overwatch World Cup. He is a very, very good tank in high ranks if your team plays around him. He's very easy to feed with, right? Depending on the comp you go against. But he's an S tier tank, now more than ever. A really good tank. And we could be back in a dive meta. Sombra. She got buffed. Ultimate cost of EMP got decreased by 10%. So she's gonna have ult more. That's a small buff. Everything else is the same. I don't think Sombra was broken. I think Sombra punishes bad players. That's why the community is so torn on this character. 50% of people think she's broken. 50% think she's really weak. I do agree with the buff. I think she was a bit too weak in the highest ranks. Because highest ranks are really good at punishing the new Sombra. If I play Sombra on my GM1 account, on my main account, which I did this season, you can die very easily, very fast. It is very hard to play correctly. But sometimes you have those games where you play correctly and you feel like the most overpowered character ever. And that's how Overwatch should feel. That's what original Tracer was like, right? Where if you play perfectly, you can hard carry, but if you fuck up a few times, you are a hard feeder. High skill, high reward is what I want. And the new Sombra is exactly that. And she's S tier if you play her well. I have quite a bunch of Sombra videos uploaded. I'll do more Sombra content because she's probably my second favorite character now after Soldier. And I agree with the buff, and I think this will help her a bit. Pharah, no changes. I think I've put Pharah in B tier for the last 20 patches. And then there's always that one person in the comments that's like, Pharah is OP, I can't kill Far Mercy. Far Mercy is 2 characters, you need to play at least 2 characters to counter them. I know it can be frustrating. That doesn't mean Pharah is OP. Pharah is not hard meta, okay? Even if you support and your team doesn't help you, you can play Illari and help you hit scan. You need to understand, low rank players especially, like you cannot pick a soldier and then expect to win 2v1 against a Far Mercy. They're 2 characters you won. And don't blame your hit scan if you don't help them. Help your hit scan to kill the Pharah and you can deal with her. But Pharah is not OP. Reaper, worst DPS in the game. Super niche. Every time I say super niche, there's like one guy in the comments that goes, but I've seen this Reaper in top 500. Like he's really good in the right hands, but every character is really good in the right hands. And otherwise he's just a bad DPS choice and every other DPS is better. Especially Sojourn, my queen. Marry me. High skill ceiling, insane with a Mercy pocket, hard carry character, and she should always be here because she's such a hard character to play. I will actually put Soldier in B tier. Actually, A tier, sorry. Last time I put him in low B, but I have come to realize that Soldier is even more effective than I thought in lower ranks. I think Soldier is a hard carry character all the way up to Plat/Diamond. Because you can do everything yourself. You don't have to rely on your team, right? You can flank, you have your own healing pad, you can get free value pickoffs. He's insane and he becomes weaker once the enemies learn how to take cover, right? Because he always has to look at you and shoot. He can't like shoulder pick like an Ashe. If you want to play DPS and you want to climb, especially low ranks, Soldier is actually your guy. If you enjoy Soldier, pick Soldier, you will be surprised. Starting from low GM, he's not that great. He becomes weaker and weaker the higher you go, basically. Symmetra got a nerf. Her health is now 200 instead of 225. Kinda random. I didn't think Sim was that OP. She was always like niche pick, Lijiang Night Market TP, you know, setting up turrets on point. So, I don't know. C tier at best now, I think. Torb, always solid. You pick him, he plays the game for you. He's weaker than last patch, right? He got nerfed start of Season 7. He has less HP in Overload. He has a lower fire rate. But he still counters characters like Sombra and Tracer by just having a turret down. Pick Torb if you want free value. Torb is the free value of DPS. I want to say Tracer is gonna get a tiny bit better now. It's harder for Illari to hit a Tracer, and Illari is the hardest Tracer bully in the game, which I think she's still going to be. I don't want to put Tracer below A tier because really skilled Tracers can make her work really well. Widowmaker, her SMG spread got reduced. I don't know why you would ever SMG on Widow other than to clean up kills. So this is like a tiny buff at best. Yeah, it's gonna be easier for you to clean up kills if you have to, but you really almost never want to SMG on Widow. And ultimate cost got reduced by 10%. The devs, I'll tell this to you now. You will never make Widow balanced. Widow will always be super oppressive on long range maps and okay on short range maps. Because as soon as you buff Widow to the point where she becomes good on shorter range maps, then she will be mega overpowered on everything else. Widow will be and always will be a situational character. I don't think the 10% ult charge reduction is gonna do much. It's a random ass change. Wrecking Ball, no changes. Actually a bit better now, because Zenyatta can't hard counter. Well, I lied, like Sombra is still in the game. Never mind. Wrecking Ball, low C tier at best. Zarya, B tier. Sorry, this video has been going on for way too long. We'll have to do with what we have to do. I hope that was pretty insightful. Don't take this as gospel. Don't think you have to pick an S tier character to win. The number one thing in Overwatch, what matters is how good are you on your character. You can pick any character on this list, even Reaper and Hog, and if you're really good on them, you will get to GM. Pick what you enjoy the most. This is just a guideline to see like if you want easy wins, pick Kiri or Illari, right? Or if you wanna play a skillful character that can have really high skill ceiling, play Sombra, right? Or if you wanna like win games for free, pick any support. Other than Reaper and Hog, which are really like actually kind of will hold your team back unless you gods at them. I think everything else is pretty playable. The patch is fine. It's more than the start of Season 7 patch. Supports are still broken though. It's not nearly enough to make them balanced. Some good changes, some really weird changes. And I will leave you with this.